Well, hello there, YouTube. How are you today? This is Eddie from Talk to a Doctor here. We're going to discuss tonight misogyny and the reaction to a female doctor, or for that matter, a female any character in a long-running established television series. Is there a need for it? Do we accept it? Is it the right thing to do? Now, I'll tell you where I stand with regards to Doctor Who for a start. I think it was an unnecessary change, and the reason I think it was an unnecessary change is there were many different things that you could have done in place of that would have been better. I don't think that a woman's role necessarily has to be cheapened by being grafted onto a role that is normally there for a man. I think women should be allowed to express that femininity and that female side of their nature as brand new characters. I think it does them a disservice. I think it's patronising to take a traditionally male character and make them female. You can talk about times where that has worked quite well. Starbuck and Battlestar Galactica would be an example of that, and Boomer as well worked quite well in Galactica. Absolutely, I understand what you're saying if you want to have that argument with me and say that those characters work well, but it's unnecessary. It's that was maybe done to shake up the kind of the group of people. But when you're a lead in a series like Doctor Who, for instance, is it a good idea to make the Doctor a female? Now, the argument with that is that people don't identify as male. If you're a young girl, that it's good to have a female, a protagonist who is a female that people can identify with them. It's good representation and it makes things a lot more diverse. And all of those things are fair and credible arguments, and they work, well with regards to, the series as a whole. And there's lots of things you can say with regards to, the misogynist reaction to the Doctor being a female. And it's difficult to argue with those, when people go, Doctor can never be a female. Well, that is blatantly bollocks. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's narratively, structurally, and dynamically a bad idea. But that's not to say that the Doctor can't be a female. It was mentioned, first of all, that regenerations can be a bit odd. I'll be back in Destiny of the Daleks, and the Doctor's wife, it was blatantly stated that the Corsair could be female or male. It was seen again in Heaven Sent, that a Time Lord regenerated from one to another, and then there's always Missy, so this is canonically accurate. Whether you like it or not, whether your male ego is dented by that is irrelevant. It is canonically accurate, and it's exactly how it should be now. And that's whether I agree with the fact that the Daleks were originally called Khalids or Dals is irrelevant, because it's what's happened. It's what we've got. The Daleks are now Khalids, are not Dals. And these things change as time goes by. So just because something happened in 1963 doesn't mean it has to happen in 2020. And this is where we are. So we've got a female Doctor. Now, is this a good idea? Has this worked for a start? Let's look at it that way. Has it worked? Well, no, it blatantly hasn't worked. Ratings are down. And I'll say this again, from The Woman Who Fell to Earth to The Timeless Child, ratings are down 6.67 million people. That's more people who normally watch it as a whole. I've said before that The Timeless Children was the lowest rated episode of Doctor Who since Curse of Fenric episode 3. Now, Curse of Fenric's a good episode, but it was up against Coronation Street. It was in November, and it was a Wednesday night. So, when you put Doctor Who up against absolutely nothing, and you can add the 4 screens on top of that, that's a shocking state of affairs. And it's a shocking indictment to the fact. Now, is that down to the fact that Jodie Whittaker is female? No, it's not. It's nothing to do with Jodie Whittaker being female. It's down to Jodie Whittaker being miscast. It's down to her being badly written, and it's down to her being misacted, I want to say. She's made errors in how she approaches the role. For me, the Doctor, as a female, should have went all out and been female like Missy did. If she had done that, if she hadn't tried to keep her foot in both camps, if she hadn't tried to be a kind of full Matt Smith stroke David Tennant, then maybe this would have worked if Jodie Whittaker was allowed to be her feminine self. Jodie is a fantastic actress. She has been in some wonderful things and given amazing performances. None of them in the 21 episodes of Doctor Who. And that's a shame, because it's not her fault. It's badly written. And even when she does seem to have an episode where she's getting her teeth into it, they bring another doctor in, and makes no sense. And Fugitives of the Judoon, where she was actually okay. She's okay in that, but she's got to contend with John Barrowman and Joe Martin chewing up every piece of scenery around about her. So she's been unfairly treated. She is now the female doctor, whether we like that or not, whether we think that is right. You want to use the word morally, but it's a TV program about a fucking time traveling alien. Where's the morals in it? Behave yourself. So for me personally, we now have a female doctor. We can argue all day long that it's cheapening the role of females in television. It is grafting a female onto a traditionally male role because the female on her own couldn't stand up right. That is effectively what they're saying, and that is unfair, because I think if they had taken a River Song series or a Jenny series or a Clara series or a Romana series, I mean, look at Romana, give or take the big finish stuff, as far as the television canon of Romana is, that she is in E-Space, which is a separate universe. She has a TARDIS and she has K9. If that's not a series about a female travelling adventurous Time Lord, I don't know what is. But they decided to turn the Doctor into a female, and that's what they've done, and that's what's happened. So, to that extent, every time you criticise Jodie Whittaker, and we had that idiot, that racist guy, Sean the Cyberman, whatever his name is, he basically came on to me yesterday and kept saying, oh, you're only complaining because she's female. And I'm not complaining because she's female. I'm complaining because AI is at 79% and the ratings are down by almost 7 million. That's why I'm complaining. It's nothing to do with what's between her legs. It's nothing to do with that at all. I mean, you could argue that the character Yaz has been badly served because the feisty female role has been taken up by the Doctor, so Yaz has got nothing to do. So it undermines the role of the companion in every stage. So the only companions that get anything done are the two males. Therefore, it fails the Bechdel Wallace test because it's not feminine writing. It's about what happens to the two guys. So whatever way you look at it, if you look at it technically, if you look at it, structurally, it doesn't make sense to make the Doctor a female. Make the Doctor a man and make him a man with foils and problems and worries, and give him a feisty, strong companion that can make him better. Give him a Rose Tyler, give him an Amy Pond, give him a Clara Oswald, give him Bill Potts. And what happens then is you get the best out of both of them. There's nothing wrong with Donna Noble, nothing wrong with Martha Jones. These are great women role models. And yeah, okay, they're talking about little girls can't dress up as them. Well, of course they can. And can little girls not dress up as Tom Baker? Because they do. I've seen it. What's wrong with that? Nothing's wrong with that. But this was a piece of virtue signal, and I used virtue signal deliberately there, not woke. We've had this discussion before. I got the word woke wrong. I've used it incorrectly in the past, and I apologise for that. Woke is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. I've been wrong to say it was bad in the past. The problem is virtue signal. It's for people who jump on to agenda to try and prove their own worth. That is the problem with Doctor Who at the moment, and lots of people are doing it in Doctor Who. Mandy McGill is guilty of it. Tosin Cole is guilty of it. And Phyllis Bradley isn't. Jodie Whittaker is extraordinarily culpable for it, and so is Chris Chibnall and Piers Wenger. They've all done it. So this is what we have now. This is what we've got. This is the Doctor as a female. You can like it or you can stick it up your arse because it's what's happening and there's nobody going to change it. It really isn't the problem of the actor now. It's a problem of the writing and what they do with it. They've had 21 episodes. Now, I think I worked out where Tom Baker was 21 adventures in, and it's something like the Talons of Wen Chiang. Right? So when you think of that, when you think of how far another Doctor was, I think John Pertwee only had 24 episodes all in. So if you think about how far these Doctors were in those amount of adventures and where she has absolutely no character arc. She's got absolutely no development. There's been nothing that intrigues anyone about her. And the only thing that was intriguing and could have pushed her on was the Timeless Children. And that was something that, as much as we don't agree with the canon of that, and let's face it, it's just canon. It changes all the time. As much as we might disagree with the canon of that, at the end of the day, And what did Chibnall decide to do with it? His doctor ignore it. He has the doctor ignore it. So for me, that is the issue, and as Blottingham in the comments is saying the audit started off at just under what $11 million. Didn't I? The audit that was there at the start of the season, sorry, I'm reading and talking at the same time, I'm a man, I can't read. 8.87 million, I think it was, that watched the women who felt there, and they should have been able to hold on to the majority of those. Doctor Who's average audience was 7 million. Her average audience is about 4 of it. Now, you could argue that Capaldi's is the same, and Capaldi's another experiment that, as much as we all love Capaldi, it doesn't work with the mainstream audience. Sadly, it was, but it needed to be changed, and it was changed because it was changed. The two experiments in the court won't work, so we know that Matt Smith works, we know that David Tennant works, we know that everyone is excited to see successful team works, we know that resurgence and people want to see Paul McGann. So when you look at those doctors, the young romantic doctor, the doctor, even if you look at Tom Baker, was in his 40s when he was a doctor, and he was a young, swashbuckling, good-looking, bohemian man. It doesn't take rocket science to write the formula, and that's what we should be doing. And we should be looking at the women in Doctor Who as important as the men, as important as the doctor. The women should be fixing this broken and damaged and sometimes flawed man, and that's what Clara and Amy and Donna and Martha and Grace face all this, and these women are not getting the chance to shine. The Mandy Gills of the world are not getting the chance to shine. They could be extraordinary. Mandy was a different actress, pretty girl, she's got a good backstory of jazz. All these things should tick every single box for a Doctor Who companion, and yet nobody knows the first fucking thing about her. I struggle to remember her second name. Sarah Jane Smith and Camilla. So Grant, Sarah McKinnon, Barbara Wright. You know what I mean? So this is where the problem is. Can no one hear what I'm saying? Is that an issue? I've been talking for ages and no one can hear me. Good, Dick, I'll come back. Yeah, is that better? Can everybody hear me now? Can you 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 let me know in the comments before I start going on again? Hello, Charlotte, how are you? Sound back? Are we back in the room? Somebody let me know, please. Good stuff. We're on. I was on, Matthew. Yep, we're back in the room. Can everybody hear me? Good stuff. Fantastic. So, apologies for that. I don't know where you got to, but basically what I was saying was I think that the fact that there's a female doctor is wasting the chance for a good female character to be in Doctor Who, because the doctor herself isn't a good female character. She's not been allowed to be particularly feminine. She's not been allowed to raise any, issues with regards to that. And, the female companions, again, are not working. However, we have what we have got. Simon Leighton, you are a wanker. We have what we have, right? And, we have to put up with it. So let's just have a wee look now. So I have decided, let's have a look at who would make a better doctor than Jodie Whittaker. Right, now this is because not because she's female, but because that she is unfortunately not, she hasn't been hit with the public. You know, it's not working. So we need to make sure. I'm having an absolute nightmare today. Can everybody hear me okay now? Is everything working now? I'm not sure if everyone can hear me. It's an absolute nightmare today. I don't know what's going on. I thought I'd fixed all this stuff. Seems to, it's all working at my end. I'm certainly getting levels and all that. Anyway, let's have a wee look now and see what I was saying with regards to other people who could play the Doctor, right? So I've got a top 13 of people who I think would make a fantastic Doctor. So I'd like to hear your comments and see what you think about these things. Okay, so here we go. The first one would be Sir Anne Jones here. Sir Anne Jones, obviously, she was in the episode The Doctor's Wife. She played Idris, and she was extraordinary in that. And certainly, I think she could really pull off the Doctor. Another one would be Angela Winkler. Angela played Hamlet. She's used to playing, she has played in the past a predominantly male role. She got laudits for her Hamlet, and she is a woman of a certain age, so certainly, she would hit that kind of Eccleston kind of bracket of an older person. Cush Jumbo is another one. She is a stunning actress who could very much pull off the Doctor. And again, someone else who has played Hamlet, can certainly pull off the role. Next one is Gillian Anderson. Gillian, as everybody knows, well known for The Fall and The X-Files. An actress of great range and very, very likely to be amazing at it. Gina McKee wouldn't be the first time she's played a Time Lord. If anyone listened to the Missy trilogy or the Missy stories in Big Finish, someone who was always my favourite for the Doctor would be Hayley Atwell. Hayley, known for playing Peggy Carter in the Marvel Universe. Another alumni of Doctor Who in Big Finish is Nicola Walker, known for playing Ruth Evershed in Spooks, and obviously she has a massive part as a companion to the Doctor as well. Then we've got Sophie here. Sophie played Liz something, the Queen Elizabeth, and The Beast Below. And again, another actress of great depth and range, and someone else who's also played a companion of the Doctor at one point as well. Lara Pulver. Lara, known for playing, and she was in Sherlock, wasn't she? And she's also been in Spooks as well. Tasman Gregg as well, the Doctor Who. People like John Pertwee came from a comedy background, so Tamsin certainly has got she worked alongside Michelle Gomez as well. Maxine Peake. Maxine's another actress who I would love to see play the Doctor in a very David Tennant-esque type of way. She could play the Doctor easily, and again has also played Hamlet. So, it's not a bad choice there. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, again, one of the people that I shout at and think that she'd be amazing to play the Doctor. Phoebe is well known for Fleabag as well as writing Kill and Eve. So, you've got a writer and an actress there. And another actress there of a certain age is Talisa Baptiste, who would be extraordinary. She is a striking woman who has got an awful lot of potential to play. She lives in Wales as well, incidentally, which is quite handy. So that would be my lot. Let me see if there's any people in the comments who are saying anything about it. So Gillian Anderson's Michael Sheen again. But Michael's not a woman, is he? So that's what we're talking about here. Eva Green. I looked at Eva Green. I looked at Tilda Swinton as well. And the issue with those actresses is they're probably slightly too big to play the Doctor. That I was looking at people who have maybe got a BBC bent, who have worked with the BBC before, who maybe are on the cusp of great things. And who are maybe well-known actresses, a bit like Eccleston is, a well-known actor. So that's kind of the kind of people that I was looking at there. So for me, that's who I would have as the Doctor. So what do you think of those kind of ideas there? Apologies again for the loss of sound and vision. I'm not sure what the hell's going on there, but hopefully that's all fixed. Yeah, I know, Maz. Well, you may prefer a male actor, and as I've said at the start of my soliloquy, as much as I could say, my monologue, I should say. It would, for me as well, a male doctor dynamically works best, but we're specifically talking about female doctors today. That's the point of that. And, we want to embrace the fact that the doctor is a female at the moment and which other females could play the doctor. So that's the point. So, Michael Sheens and all the rest of it are all fantastic. However, that is not who we have at the moment. So in the chat, I put a little invite for anyone who wants to come and talk. We're not talking long tonight. We're finishing around about 7 o'clock. So if you are interested in coming on, the rules are very straightforward. I want your full name. I prefer you on webcam. If you're a dick, you come straight off. If you come in the bottom of my screen before I invite you on with a stupid name, as the Gorminator shows up. If you come in with, the last time we had Jihadi John come in and he get nowhere fucking near me. So, that's not going to happen. So let's hopefully this works and we'll get the Gorminator on. How you doing, sir?
No bad, mate. How's yourself apart from your audio problems, mate?
Am I working now? Is everything going now? Is it okay?
You're working fine. See, that's what happens. You sell us David Turnbull and everything goes to that shit down your end of the world.
Well, I want some of that £3 million to buy a new fucking webcam or something, whatever caused that. I don't know. So.
Aye, is that how Motherwell's going to be broadcasting their matches this year, is it? And
I can see for part for just out my back window, so I might just do that. I might just point my camera. Anyway, what can I do for you today? What have you got to tell me today?
On your topic tonight, I know we've kind of spoke about this in length on Twitter over the past couple of years, and I agree with you. It's not so much the fact that it's the doctor's played by a female. If I had my choice, would I have made that change? No. But now that it has been made, you go for the best level performer you can.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly that hasn't happened. And clearly they've had no clue how to implement that change successfully. Mm-hmm. There's no discernible character to the 13th Doctor. You could get Meryl Streep in there and she'd have nothing to work with. It's this Doctor is as flat as a pancake. So if you're going to make that change, you need to give the Doctor a character, which hasn't happened. Now, for who'd be a better alternative? Eva Green, Vicky McClure, Tilda Swinton. There's loads of performers you could do. Some of the names you've mentioned, Sophie, I'm going to butcher her name, Sophie Okwedono. Yep, she'd be brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Christ, Jenna Coleman. That's never going to happen for obvious reasons, but this nonsense that keeps getting thrown, and I see the shit you've had this week for it on Twitter, mate, is just, it's not misogynistic to point out you don't like a change or something. What is misogynistic is to completely criticise Whittaker because she's female. That's not what the criticism is.
Yep.
The criticism is that she's miscast. Mm-hmm. She is got a questionable attitude towards the show, potentially. Mm-hmm. Depending who you speak to, the attitude towards fandom isn't great either, but that's neither here nor there. That's not misogynistic to question these things.
No.
Look at Michelle Gomez. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Fandom embraced her because she was good.
Yeah.
It was a well-written part. She embraced fandom. There was no nonsense there. Mm-hmm. What I'm seeing a lot of now is I'm seeing a lot of people that jump up and down about this misogynistic nonsense. And for me, that's just a stick to beat particularly the older fans with, because these people seem to get off in upsetting fans. It's not about legitimate progressive change, because let's be honest, Doctor Who already had that in spades.
Yes.
It's about forcing a fandom to alter itself and then getting the rocks off by seeing the carnage that causes. And that, for me, is complete bullshit. Doctor Who was a show that 3 or 4 years ago had first transgender performer in the show's history. You had an older male playing the Doctor. You had a multi-racial cast, multi-gender cast, featuring storylines about gay characters. written by an openly gay man. Now, I don't know what you consider to be progressive, but I would point to that.
Yeah,
but because
I'd probably go a wee bit further back and look at An Unearthly Child, which was written, which was directed by a gay Asian and produced by a female Jew.
Yeah,
in 1963.
Yeah, and if you watch Matt Gattis's brilliant documentary, they even do a bit with William Hartnell, where he's sitting there opposite a female and an Asian gay gentleman, and he's he's a bit of an arse.
Yeah,
but you actually see his development, how that positively affected his behaviour, and out the other side of it, he turns out to be a decent human being. Why you had to force this change in Doctor Who, I don't know, because it was the last show. I mean, if you said to me, right, we're going to reboot the A-Team, the most stereotypical male programme you could get, probably, right? And say, right, we're going to have, the A-Team's going to be a gang of women, they're going to be multi-ethnic, lesbian, whatever. Yeah, fine. Because there wasn't a lot to the A-Team to begin with. But something like Doctor Who, particularly in the novels, was very progressive. I don't see where the enjoyment or what's really progressive about upsetting people and then tagging them as racist, sexist, homophobic, nothing. Because when you've seen my Twitter timeline, I think if anybody was racist or sexist or homophobic on that, they'd be getting a certain C word aimed at them for me. I've got no time for that shite, so I don't see why I would tolerate it in the programmes I watch. These people aren't racist and sexist. Some of the abuse that poor Noel gets, Jesus wept. I mean, he's got the patience of a saint, that guy. And what you've had this week, and what poor Daniel's had, has just been shocking. These aren't progressive people. These are bullies. They want to force a change onto people just for the sake of upsetting them. I think that undermines their cause massively. And also,
I think, sorry, mate. I think it was quite interesting last night. I mean, I know I was talking to you privately last night as well. And when we were talking to that guy, Sean, the Mondasian Cyberman, whose Real name's Sean Barrett. I thought that was hilarious that he kept going to me, well, you're obviously picking on Jodie Whittaker because she's female. And I said, no, I'm picking on the 13th Doctor because of this, and this. But you're not answering my question, but I am, because it's this, and this. But it's because she's female. And then he was screen grabbing it and going elsewhere and misrepresenting me and lying about it. And I said, so then I copied that and I said, look, no, what about this, and that. And then the next thing someone PM me and goes, he's a racist, don't you? And I said, I'm sorry, what? And then this whole thing came up where he was having an absolute pissy fit because Hermione Granger was played by a black female on stage. And I thought, hold on a minute, mate. Don't sit in that glass house and chuck stones at me.
And that sums it up for me, mate. That totally sums it up. Because if you look at the accounts of these people that are banging on about racism and sexism and everything else, not once do they mention these issues out with that. I mean, I'd actually toned down my Twitter because I was doing my tattying over how the Tories were treating people and, how the cops were actually murdering black people for sport.
Yes.
Right, I had to tone my Twitter down because I was at the point of losing the nut over it. You go into these people's Twitter, it's crickets, mate.
Yeah.
It's absolute crickets. And, don't sit and lecture people who have got more experience of life than a lot of these 20-year-olds, not to be dismissive, but, who actually know it, has seen genuine racism and sexism in the world. And trust me, you're not getting that in Doctor Who. You want to get out in the real world and see what actual racism and sexism does to people. Because I can guarantee you it's a lot more upsetting than watching Peter Capaldi turning into Jodie Whittaker.
Absolutely. It struck me as an odd one that, when you look at them, they've obviously got an agenda. And incidentally, the agenda that they've got is, in my opinion, a worthy one. They should be shouting it and they should be calling out. I mean, there was a thing this week about Lawrence Fox becoming the Doctor. And there were people reporting it as a hotly tipped favourite. What a piece of virtue-signaling bullshit. Because nobody was hotly tipping them bad except the person that says, I'm hotly tipping them. Lawrence Fox will get nowhere near Doctor Who because he is well, he's an asshole, but he's exact opposite of Jodie Whittaker politically. Do you know? And he sits in the opposite sides of that. And there's no way they're going to hand him a franchise like Doctor Who. I mean, if you take away his personal life, he's a reasonable actor. He's got a quirky look about him. I can see where he could fit in the Doctor Who. But considering how Piers Wenger is with Doctor Who at the moment, he's getting nowhere near it. He's not picked by nobody. He's no fan favourite. You know, and don't misrepresent that. That's not true. That's, you know, people. I mean, when people say Michael Sheen, you know, fan favourite, give me a fan that doesn't want Michael Sheen to be the Doctor.
Exactly.
You know, absolutely all day long. Somebody like Hayley Atwell, I've not heard anybody say, no, Hayley Atwell's a bad idea. Gillian Anderson, you know, yes, today, give me that now.
Yeah, brilliant.
You know, because, and as I said, the question about whether the Doctor's female or male now is irrelevant. The Doctor can be both. So we need to get the best actor, regardless of gender, for that role. We shouldn't be looking at, you know, personally, you know, I think, you know, I'm looking at Adrian Lester. I think he'd be extraordinary as a Doctor. You know,
it's just something I was a way to say to you, mate, is that here's the thing, and it's not a nice thing to say, but we've got to be realistic about it if you're making these changes. The minute the Doctor becomes black or Asian or female, that immediately impacts how you do her historical. Because the Doctor goes back in time to 1950s America. The Doctor's not walking into a room taking charge of anything.
No.
Quite frankly, the Doctor's getting lynched and getting hung. And I know it's a bit heavy, but that's what happened then. And if you're going to do these kind of stories, the Doctor shouldn't be the person that these things are happening to. The Doctor should be the person that comes in and goes, "This is bloody awful. I'm going to sort this out." The minute the Doctor becomes a victim of that, it shifts how you tell the story. And if you can't incorporate that into the programme responsibly, there you've got a problem. And this current team cannot do that. We saw the car crash that was the Rosa Parks episode. I mean, could you imagine if the Doctor was black and that same team tried to write that? You'd be watching through your eyes.
Let me tell you, I'm going to tell you an apocryphal story. I'm going to tell everyone an apocryphal story, right? Now, this story is apocryphal. It may or may not have happened.
A bit like the one I told you during the week,
The very same as that one, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not mentioning any names. However, a famous, but how can I put this right? So, a few 3 generations ago, right, when the universe was half its present size and David Tennant was thinking of leaving, let's just say, right, an actor was first choice for the 11th Doctor, right? He was a well-known actor. He'd been in Doctor Who before. He was well known for being in other things, and he had this kind of otherworldly, slightly eccentric thing about him, and he was a fantastic choice for the Doctor. And he was picked. He was offered it. He said yes. There's a picture of him that will go to my grave, with him standing next to the TARDIS box with a key in his hand and a kind of purpley velvet jacket on. And in the meantime, he was working on something else. So they said, well, thank you very much, Mr. Go and finish what you're doing, and we'll dot the I's and cross the T's here. Allegedly, this could have happened, maybe it didn't, right? And we'll go and finish this, right? So he went away quite happy, not telling anybody that it was going to be the next Doctor, because he keeps it quiet.
Of course.
And, you know, and away he goes. So the production team for Doctor Who, who are a new production team, are quite excited that they're going to be, you know, this brand new Doctor, and it's quite an innovative Doctor because it's a person of colour. I didn't mention that, but he is. And they thought to themselves, well, let's just tell everybody at the 6th floor that this is going to be the case. So away they went, and the 6th floor went, nope, not a chance. And they went, well, we've told them, well, you can just go and untell them, right? And, you know, allegedly this probably didn't happen. Right, but they said that you know, because certain franchises in certain areas of the world won't accept that, you know, and you know, you're opening yourself up. So they stopped it. They stopped it, and then they offered it to Rafe Spall, who then blabbed about it and get it taken off of him, and then Matt Smith was the first and obvious choice. You know, so I mean, don't get me wrong, very happy we get Matt Smith in there.
Yeah.
But, it could have been 1 or 2 other people. So allegedly, probably didn't happen. It may just be an apocryphal story, but that's what I've heard. That that guy got on the plane in Gatwick as the doctor, and got off the plane the other side as been given quite a big golden handshake by the BBC. And
I've heard that story as well.
You signed that NDA.
I'll give you the same name. I think we both know who we're speaking about here.
What we have here is a comment section that's private. So let's just dive into that comment section, if you don't mind, see if it's the same name. Sorry, everyone. Sorry, guys. I hate the private jokes, but it's exactly who I said.
The version of that, it was pretty much what you've said, but it was pretty much fairly down to the wire,
right?
In terms of announcement.
It was very close. I think.
Yeah, because if you apocryphally. Yep. If you think back at the time, I think Tennant announced he was chucking it officially in October.
Yeah,
it was the first week in January when Matt Smith was announced.
It was.
I believe that announcement, they wanted it to go out before or just coincidentally at the same time as Tennant was going to regen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was 9 days later that happened.
Yeah.
The version of that story I was told was that Tennant was going to regenerate, and the announcement to it was going to happen either right before the show went out, or they were going to pull a surprise regeneration.
Right.
That's the version I was told, or that was the plan.
Yep.
Obviously, that, as you said, that wasn't allowed to happen. Mm-hmm. Now, quite frankly, if that individual we're speaking about would have been brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been utterly brilliant. So would Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yep. Who knocked it back, allegedly.
Yeah, yes. Yep. Because he was away to, I think he'd just done Children of Men.
Mm-hmm.
When he was spoken to about that. And there was another actor they offered it to as well. And it wasn't Colin Salmon. It wasn't him, although he would have been brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot remember the name I get told. But anyway, it was a good actor. It wasn't.
You know that Colin Salmon. There was a thing that Russell T Davies said a while ago that Colin Salmon actually is the Doctor in Silence in the Library.
Yeah.
You know that?
I read that.
A secret Doctor, and I love that. Right, I never even considered that.
The thing is, you could actually see him as a almost a John Shaft style Doctor that actually underneath it is as cold as ice.
Yeah,
that would be tremendous.
Yeah.
But again, we go back to the thing, how Doctor Who's always done stories about racism and discrimination really well.
Yes,
in the most part. But the Doctor's been an observer and a critic of it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice the Doctor never actually stops or resolves racism.
Yeah.
He only tries to disrupt it and help the victims and move on, because you can. What would happen is if the Doctor became the victim of racism, that changes the dynamic of the story.
Yes.
And you have to have a bloody good actor and a bloody good writer to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. And we've just named quite a few bloody good actors who could probably pull it off. Listen, I've got Charlie here. I'm going to pull it up. Are you happy to stay on, mate?
Another 5 minutes and I've got something to do, mate. So, yeah.
No worries. I'm the same. I don't have long either. Let's get Charlotte on with us.
Hello.
Evening, Charlotte. It's evening, isn't it?
Yes, it's just about.
Good stuff. What have you got to tell us today? What have you got for us?
I just want to say, I think obviously I can't talk for all female fans, and I wouldn't even try to.
Go for it. You definitely can.
Yeah, but the ones I've talked to and my friends, a lot of us felt like the female Doctor wasn't needed because of the companions we've had in the history of this show, especially New Who, because I didn't have the classic background. I'll say this now, I came in 2005 because I was intrigued with the trailers with Chris and the fire, and it was all quite exciting, so I thought I'd give it a go. So I started watching it from then, And what's the first episode called? Rose. Who's the main character? Rose. The Doctor's basically a side character in that first episode. So the female Doctor, I think a lot of female fans thought, we don't need this because we've had such good and amazing representation, if you want to use that word, with all the, obviously you guys who know the classic companions better, but obviously Sarah Jane, Leela, Ace, there was never weak female characters in this show. And I think the problem is, for certain people, they're trying to push that rhetoric, and that's why they needed a female Doctor, which I'll say, from my experience, is completely false. And I think that's why a lot of female fans sort of went, why is this such a big deal? We've already had this.
Yeah, and it takes away, I think, I don't know whether my audio went at the time, but it takes away the punch and the dynamicness of someone like Yaz, who now has absolutely nothing to do. You know, where in normal life in Doctor Who world before this, she would have been a very good companion. She would have been the archetypal companion. She's very well structured. It's not particularly well written, but she's well structured. You know, she's a policeman. She's Asian. She's got, ticks a lot of boxes for a Doctor Who companion.
She's northern as well. You know, it takes out the whole kind of plummy London type. You know, there is good stuff there, but my God, she's written as flat as a pancake.
Yeah, but she can't do anything, and I think
she can't.
The problem is, I think, and this is why I wanted to talk about companions, I think this era has really shown that if we don't have good companions, this show doesn't work. Yeah. And I think we've been spoiled with all the ones we've had, so we've not clicked how important they are until we've had this setup.
But you hit the nail on the head there, Charlotte. I would actually go a step further. The Doctor wasn't just a side character in Rose. I would actually argue that the main character at Eccleston's season was Rose. It was the companion, because for, I would say, 80% of that audience, they had no bloody clue who the Doctor was.
Oh, I didn't.
Was Rose.
Women saved the day in every episode of season 1 except for Partner of the Ways. The Doctor didn't save the day. Either Rose or Jabe or someone saved the day. It wasn't the Doctor. And every single episode, if you look back at them all, there's not one where the Doctor's in charge. You know, he's in the middle of it all, and he inspires people to do the right thing. You know, but with the exception of probably the Doctor dances, because not just this one shows everybody lives. He's only showing off the Rose in that one. You know, but it's really Captain Jack that saves the day in that. You know, so there's not one episode that Eccleston's Doctor, except for the last one, saves the day. It's always a female on Rose, or it's Jabe. She does it, and I think that's the end of time, isn't it? So, you know, so there's, what was it called? The end of the world. So you know, there's all these ones. Listen, I've got Talkie. I'm going to pull him up as well. Okay. How you doing there, Talkie?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good, mate. What have you got for us today?
A lot of agreement, I guess. I think a female Doctor's not worked because it's not because of the fact that the Doctor's a woman, but it's just because of the writing. Again, it comes back to that. I don't mind there being a female Doctor at all. I mean, I think it's useful for. There was a old complaint that some people said, young boys need someone to look up to, a positive male role model. I think there's capacity for young boys to maybe learn a bit of respect of women as well that way if you have a female role model like that. But I think this change has been made for entirely the wrong reasons. I'm just looking at stuff I've written down here. The reason why the showrunner for having a female Doctor, I think, is misguided or downright wrong. I think he's done it for entirely the wrong reasons. I'm gonna smash in through the doors here and change things up and do things what I want to do to get my, I hesitate to use the phrase, but to get my own virtue signaling across. And I agree with the phrase virtue signaling in this instance, because he's not doing the character any justice. He's not doing the decision any justice at all. Yeah. I mean, I think he completely has a fundamental misunderstanding of what the Doctor is as a character in this as well. Like you said last time, she's become a cipher. She didn't do anything in the last episode of Timeless Child. I don't get that decision at all. And then going back to what Charlotte's just saying just now about how we experienced the show, Rose is a fantastic example of how the main character actually genuinely, the protagonist really is the companion, because we encounter this character and the universe. They represent the vastness of the universe and the unknown. And we learn through this character through the eyes of this companion character, be it Rose. Having 3 is just nuts, you know, because there's no one you can really tie yourself to. Or you could do that if it was written better, I suppose. Something that occurred to me as well, which I don't think I've heard anybody mention so far. What if the show was written and run by a woman? I would love to see actually, you know, a woman impart their experience and their view of the world through a character who may be a male or female. You know, talking about what Gorminator was saying earlier about, you know, if the doctor was black, you know, they would, confronting racism through that character would be an absolute given. We haven't seen, maybe I've missed it, but having the Doctor be a female, I haven't seen the Doctor really encounter many problems as a female. You know, given, you know, what I know, but, you know, people I'm related to and married to, what they've had to deal with as women throughout their lives. And I've not seen that through this iteration of the character at all, which lets her down and lets the audience down, a good proportion of the audience down as well, about getting certain stories told. I don't think he has a right to write her that way.
Yeah, maybe the Witchfinders, there was maybe a little bit of that in the Witchfinders to a degree, what she says, you know. But what I was wondering is, what do you think of this, Talgie? Or Charlotte, I was thinking, with regards to the Doctor, one of the things that has been a thing from Eccleston, or maybe even from McGann onwards, has been sex appeal when it comes to the Doctor. You know, lots of women fancying, you know, the Doctor, you know, whether it be, you know, David Tennant and his swagger, or Matt Smith and his goofy charm. And, you know, a lot of people now, you go through Twitter and see the girls who swoon over Capaldi and his extraordinary blonde hair. You know, and whilst that might not, it might be quite a shallow way of looking at it, it is part of the game. But when Jodie's came along, she doesn't do that. She's quite asexual, you know, and she doesn't really embrace her femininity in any way, the way perhaps the way that perhaps Missy did. You know, Michelle Gomez is sexy, she's sassy, she's all these things that really embraces the fact that she's female. But Jodie doesn't do it, or the 13th Doctor doesn't do that.
It's not the 13th Doctor that doesn't do it, it's the writer.
Yeah.
Because he's afraid to, because I think he's afraid to be associate a female character with those attributes for fear of being decried as a sexist, I think. I mean, it's not like you're... Sorry, Charlotte.
I was going to say, I've said this before in the cast, but I'll repeat it again. I think the fact that she isn't written female, her costume isn't female, they've not dealt with any female issues except from Witchfinders, and I found that really shallow watching that as a female. Because I was like, this is going to happen at some point, and they did it. And the problem is, when Chibnall tries to do these things, they come off as a joke. And the whole, they're not listening to me because I'm female, it came off as a joke. And it should never do that. And I think the best way to put it is she hasn't got a female energy. Maybe that's a good way to put it for a whole package.
I think it's a man's impression of how he thinks women want him to view women. You know what I mean? It bends back in itself a bit there, but yeah, it's not authentic at all. And I think it's disrespectful to the idea of having a woman as the Doctor, because he's, like I said before, he's letting her down, and he's letting a good chunk of he's letting all the audience down doing that, really. Yeah,
I find it quite patronising as well. You know, that just because she is female by the very nature of her gender, that should be enough. Do you know, that they graft this female character onto a traditionally male role and say, well, that's all you're getting, guys. She's going to act like another Doctor. She's going to dress like a clown. She's not going to tackle any female issues. Even though we're making a fuss about breaking the glass ceiling, you know, it's about time and all that kind of stuff. You know, all that's fine and dandy. That's okay to embrace that if that's what they want to do. But the fact is, as you both said, it's quite shallow and you know, kind of dismissive in the way they do it. That's why it's virtue signal, and that's why it's not the right thing. It's not the way to do it. If you look at someone like Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica is maybe a good example of someone who is playing a traditionally male character. Starbuck, of course, has been what's his name? Cumberbatch, but it's not. You know, he was the original guy who played him, and you know, I'm Benedict Cumberbatch is somebody else entirely, isn't it?
You were talking about the A-Team a minute ago.
You know, I love it when a plan comes together. So you know, you've got Starbuck played by
Katie Sackhoff.
Katie Sackhoff, who's extraordinary at that. But she's all manners of tough, she's all manners of female, she's all manners of sexy, and she plays Starbuck in a entirely different way. But you still know it's Starbuck, do you know? And the same as Missy is, you still know that's the master, do you know? And I think that's what's missing, that they didn't attack it properly, do you know? And I think going back to the companion side of things, because you have a female doctor who is neither, you know, the old Scottish phrase of sugar or shite, you know, he's neither one or the other. You know, it kind of saps the life out of the companions, and that's the problem. Is we have 3 companions who have absolutely nothing to do, but that's more to do with the fact that the doctor isn't inspiring enough and isn't a good foil for them. And if you look at all the other doctors, like if you look at Capaldi with Bill, for instance, he was very much it was very much a Eliza Doolittle, he was a teacher, she was the learner, very similar to Leela in the past. If you look at him with Clara, he was besotted with Clara, he was fascinated by her. You know, there was very specific reasons for them to be together. The Doctor and Sarah, their best friends, you just knew that about them, you know, and obviously Romana, there's a thing going on there. But you knew there was a thing, there was always a reason that they were together. This lot don't seem to have a reason. And I think that's down to the fact that there's no attack in the Doctor's character. It's nothing to do with her being female. What that does is the female side of the Doctor takes away from any feisty other females, because if they write them too well, it weakens the Doctor. So that's why Yaz just is a piece of nothing, unfortunately, which is a shame. That's how I take it anyway.
That makes Yaz Harry Sullivan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you can apply that to all of what's going on in it with all those characters. It's all surface. You know, we've got, you know, 2 characters from different ethnic minority backgrounds, and I feel like their ethnicity is not being properly addressed either. I feel like they're being used. There's not enough to them. The same with Graham, in terms of, like, I thought he was my fears about that weren't thankfully realised. You know, he is a bit of a font of wisdom, and I think he's the most interesting character in it. My fear was that Chibnall was going to have him as like the old white guy who gets everything wrong.
And he sort of became that in series 12.
I kind of stopped watching. I hate to say it, so I didn't see a lot of that.
Yeah,
it's on surface.
And you can watch Bradley Walsh slowly lose interest. I mean, there's apocryphal stories of him walking off set and saying he wasn't coming back till they sorted out their shit show, you know, and things like that. You know, and obviously they were all meant to be, you know, the plan was everyone was leaving last October, and a couple of them were talked back into it, and him and Tosin Cole just were not having it. I think they'd had enough, and you can watch through series 12, Bradley slowly lose the will to live. You see it particularly in Orphan 55, where he couldn't have given a fuck if you paid him. You know,
no one gave a fuck in that episode.
True. But you can literally see him just saying, I'm just saying the words, I'm saying the words, I'm saying the words. You know, and it was so obvious. And considering the attack that he put into the early stuff, you know, and then we've all said, well, the best thing about Chibnall there is Bradley Walsh by a country mile. You know, and it's a shame that a secondary, probably a tertiary character in the series is the most exciting. Him and his wife, and she's only been in an episode and a bit. Don't count the frog.
I think the problem is, when you look at, and you can apply this to Jodie or the companions, I cannot tell you any motivations to these characters.
Mm-hmm.
A companion, especially with companions, I can name you why every companion in Modern Who was with their doctor. Rose, because she was in a dead-end job, she was young, she wanted to be more, she wanted to travel. Martha, I think it was a bit of intrigue because of the way they met, and a bit of sort of romance you could throw in. And then by the end, she saved the world. That's female power right there. She was the one who got saved that day. Obviously, Donna, it was that sort of longing as again, but I think with Donna, it was more from a pit of self-doubt, whilst Rose didn't have that as much. Amy, met him as a kid, sort of Peter Pan imprint sort of thing. Rory came along. Rory came along because of Amy. Clara, impossible girl. Bill, sort of same theme of not living her life, but I think it was because she saw a teacher in the doctor. There you go. I could just name you all the motivations. I can tell you that for those 3.
just because they're fam and they stick together unless they don't, you know. And then I don't see the doctor ever doing anything for them that makes them show any the loyalty that they're showing, you know. And for instance, the famous one, and Gordon's away, so he won't hit the roof with this one when, you know, she dismisses Graham's cancer scare, you know, and doesn't really have anything to do with the, you know, doesn't address the racism that, you know, Yaz and Ryan will counter in 50s, you know, in 50s America. She basically says, you know, just back away and don't say anything, you know. And these are the things that she's badly written. Again, it's nothing to do with her being female, it's just that she's badly written, you know. And 21 episodes in, there's no excuse for it now. They should have found her the groove, you know. I mean, Christopher Eccleston found the groove in one word, run. You know, and look at John Hurt. All he done was turn round at the end of the name of the doctor, and you knew exactly that he was the doctor. He opened his mouth, you know, and this is what's happening. You know, 21 episodes in, there is no engagement. Now, I get the fact that there is a group of people out there, a small group of people who do really love Jodie Whittaker. And somebody had said that to me last night, you know, on Twitter. They said, "I'm sorry, I like Jodie Whittaker." And I said, "Don't ever apologise. If that's your doctor, that's your doctor. I'll defend your right to the death for that to be the case, you know." But because of that, you know, don't critique other people because we disagree with that. And it's certainly, I think everyone in the comments and everyone that's been on tonight, it's nothing to do with the fact that she's female. It's the fact that she's badly written and has, you know, has not attacked the role as other actors have. That would be my take from the whole thing.
I agree.
Yep.
I mean, I've always usually tried to not get too involved in the whole miscast thing of it. I'd cast Lucy Davis as a doctor.
Good call.
From Shaun of the Dead, without a doubt. And going back to Lawrence Fox briefly as well, the only reason he's hotly tipped by anyone is because he's been hotly tipped by right-wing press.
Yes.
You know, that's like because he's a poster boy for them. He's a total poster boy. He should be allowed nowhere near that site at all.
Yep, it won't be. The thing is, it's not a thing. It's not. Nobody's even entertaining them. The two things are going to happen with Doctor Who. Either there's a flash regeneration at Christmas, in which case he's already cast. He was cast last October, and that was the rumour we had. Or Jodie's carrying on through season 13, in which case nobody's even looking at a new Doctor now. So there's nothing. But listen, what I'll do is I'm keeping these to about an hour, guys. So I'm going to end it there. So thank you very much for coming on, both of you, and obviously Gordon and Nathan earlier on. I'll pop you both off and I'll say my goodbyes if that's okay.
Thanks, Eddie. Cheers.
Eddie.
Take care, both. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
And that's me on my own. Everyone's gone. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for coming on tonight. I hope you've got something out of that. Just let my computer catch up with me. Take care, everyone. You know, have a lovely evening. I hope everything goes well for you as your evening carries on. And I hope you come back again and speak to us once again. As we said, I'll just run through the people that I had in my list for the Doctor. Saran Jones, Angela Winkler, Kush Jumbo, Gina McKee, Gillian Anderson, she's Hayley Atwell, Nicola Walker, Lara Pulver, Sophia Canado, who else? Tamsin Gregg, Maxine Peake, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and the fabulous Teresa Baptiste. So that's who we've got today, ladies and gentlemen. That's everybody there. And what we'll do is we'll finish off with a song. No, I'm kidding. So that's us finished. So thanks very much, everyone, for joining us this evening. Happy times and places. And as ever, may your God, whoever they are, go with you. Take care.